This is Detroit's Morning Answer with John Anthony on FM 92.7 and AM 1400. The Answer.
I find it disturbing that the president and now candidate for state senate would make that statement, the president of the school board, because this is actually what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to have those conversations. We're supposed to talk about what this says, and we're supposed to debate what role you have in educating our children. And the reality is that there's lots of things in this proposed guidelines that do not line up with the beliefs of parents. They do not believe it is the role of the government, which, by the way, you are, to dictate these kinds of things. Things like you said, the science of gender.
I do not co-parent with the government. Michigan parents have the right to know what their child is being taught and when it's being introduced. My child grew inside of me. I gave birth to that child, not the teacher, not the government. Teaching about nutrition and exercise is health. Teaching about sexual activity and their identity is sex education. The Michigan law treats them very differently for a reason. House Republicans' feet is planted firmly on the ground. We're looking into legislation that will reaffirm parental notification and opt-out rights. Raising a new generation of kids is why I came to Lansing, to protect our kids and to fight for what is right and wrong.
Wow. That was Representative Jay DeBoyer and State Representative Jamie Thompson talking about what's happening in Michigan schools. And again, this is another Vance connection. I really do appreciate you, Vance Patrick. He's the Oakland County Republican chairman. I told him I'm always looking for people out there who are game changers, people who are looking to make sure that their state and the state of Michigan is doing the right things. Because you know why? Classrooms are supposed to be places of learning, curiosity, and safety. Yet many parents and teachers in Michigan are sounding the alarm. Concerns about schools' discipline, state curriculum standards, and the environment inside the classroom are growing louder. Today, we're talking to someone who has been watching this closely from inside the process. We're joined by Bree Moggenberg, a member of the Michigan Republican State Committee, who has been actively engaged with parents, school boards, and educators across the state. She's been part of the conversation shaping where Michigan goes next on education policy and especially parental involvement. Bree, thank you for taking the time to talk with us. Welcome to Detroit's Morning Answer.
Mr. Anthony, thank you. And can I just add, I ditto what you said about Vance Patrick. He is a rock star, and man, if something needs to get done, he makes it happen.
Oh, I'm telling you, he's a mover and a shaker in Michigan, and I love him dearly. He and Reg. They are like
likewise
my adopted brother and sister, big brother and big sister. Well, I should say older brother.
I love it. Well, great. Well, thank you for having me.
But Bree, what are you hearing most consistently from parents right now about what's happening in Michigan schools?
You know, I am just going to start and preface it by saying this. There is so much that can be unpacked with that question.
Yeah.
Specifically, right now, the health standards are a huge alarm, a huge concern with parents, with legislators. And, you know, if we even go a step beyond that, which that could be an entirely different episode, we have to look at parents' concerns with their children that are literally not being educated. I mean, our failure rates are skyrocket high. Yeah. Our teachers are retiring. Our teachers are quitting. They're not getting the support that they need with behaviors in the classroom. So, like I said, there's a lot that could be unpacked with that, but I think those are the two strongest things right now that are happening within our school system that are alarming.
What's driving the teacher leaving? What are the teachers saying?
Well, the fact that you act this truly hits my heart very closely because I have many close friends that are educators. And the way that the system is currently set up, and I won't go into detail, but we offer something that's called restorative practices, which can be a very good thing. Now, restorative practices are for those kids that have behaviors and trying to help restore them in a safe manner, in a loving manner, making sure that they're not simply suspended, expelled, that sort of thing. But on the flip side of that, teachers are dealing with these behaviors because they have to allow a certain amount. So how do teachers teach effectively and not fail our students when at the same time they're having to deal with behaviors in classrooms? And I can tell you quite honestly, if you were to sit down and speak to a teacher, and if you are looking at grade 4 and below, every single one of those classrooms should have an assistant in there, no different, right, than our buses should have an assistant and a staff, because you can't teach when you're dealing with behaviors.
Right.
So for 20 years, I have done childcare, and I will tell you, in a group setting of 6, it takes one child to completely change the agenda for the entire day and not get through anything that you had prepared to do.
Wow. So here's my question. How can parents have a more direct influence on school board decision-making without them being dismissed as these extremists or outsiders?
Vote, man. Parents have to vote. Parents have got to be educated, and at the end of the day, it matters where your votes go. And if you end up with very woke liberal people on that school board, hence the state school board, and we've seen this, people can scream it from the mountaintops, but really, unless legal matters step in, they're going to do what they want to do. Votes matter to everybody that's listening. Your votes matter. Pay attention to who is on those school boards, because when you get good, educated school board members, you can give them your thoughts and ideas. They will take them, process them, and do what is the best interest in the welfare of the children and making sure those parents have their parental rights.
And show up to these school board meetings, right?
Absolutely. You communicate. You have to communicate and advocate for your child. Advocate, and activate. Those are extremely important.
Michigan, the House, those 2 representatives I played, DeBoyer and Jamie Thompson.
Fantastic.
Oh, I love them both.
On point.
And they were discussing this 51-page curriculum standards that's trying to be introduced. Can you explain to the audience? Are you familiar with this 51-page?
Yes.
Can you explain to the audience what's in there and why is there cause for concern?
Yeah, so twofold to that. So the first thing that I will explain is the health curriculum that was originally proposed was very alarming. And the top, sounding bell to that was gender identity and sexual orientation were included in sex ed, and sex ed itself was included into the health curriculum. Now, you have to realize the law in this matter. So the state law requires health in order to graduate. It is a merit of graduation. Sex education is an elective in which parents receive notification. They have an opportunity to opt their student out. And if their student, which I want to add, their student can even opt themselves out of sex education. And there is no detriment to graduation in that case. So the way that it was proposed, there was no clarification. There was a clause in there that said parents can request curriculum and opt their kid out if they choose to do so, but there was nothing clarifying that sex education was separate. And so you would see in matters of, for instance, safety as a health standard, it would introduce something in regards to sex. Well, what this would do, right, go back to my teacher friends, teachers would then literally have to take these constant requests from parents. I want to request to see the curriculum. I want to request to see the curriculum because it wasn't a separate class. But those standards have been adapted, and they will be proposed this Thursday. So the State Board of Education meeting that's upcoming is this Thursday. Public comment is at 1 o'clock, and you can go to the state government site if anybody wants to look up on how to do that. What they have done is good. These changes, I will say there could be some more changes in them, But they have very specifically put the law into these standards that are now 75 pages. And they have identified specifically that sex education, although these standards are here, because we do, right? We need to have those standards set for sex education. Those standards are specified that parents will be notified, they can opt out, and it follows the law in that format. Now, I will say that I do still believe it is lacking. Number one, we can tell kids about safe on very young children. I was a child care provider. I teach those kids boundaries to protect themselves from sexual abuse as soon as you allow adults to start being safe and anybody being able to talk to your child about sexuality. Yeah. What are we doing? Right. We're getting them to drop these boundaries that I helped instill in these kids. And then what happens when these boundaries are lowered? You literally open the door for our children to be preyed upon by predators. And we're putting them in a scenario where groomers can step in. So groomers and sex predators and the definition and understanding what a groomer is, those really need to be added to that health curriculum. And then if you go into the sexual education portion, that the new proposal does verify, it's very different than the regular health curriculum. They will specifically talk about gender identity, and I just want you to hear this for a minute.
Please, go ahead, please.
Okay, this is directly from the new proposal. Define gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation, and explain that they are distinct components of every individual's identity. And I want to pull out these two words. Explain that. So if you look in other areas, you will hear explain how. Please give examples, give pros, give cons. Well, my child is not going to explain to you that you can change your gender. You are born with a biological sex.
Yes.
And I will tell you that I actually co-authored a book in regards to this. If anybody's interested.
Say, what's the name of the book?
Pronouns, not schmonouns. A schmonoun is a pretend pronoun. But I say this because we all have to agree gender identity, no matter how much we disagree with it, it's here to stay.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. And we have Elliot Larson's. That's not going to change until our government structure changes in the House, in the Senate, in the governor's seat. Yeah. So I do see that this is important to have this education in here, because whether a child is transgender, whether they are homosexual, heterosexual, they need to understand safety and parameters that go along with their sexual identity and orientation. But this is what it also does not do. We all know that there is gender-affirming hormone therapy. We all know that sex transitioning is real and that youth can have this done. It does not have in here that it is a standard of sex education to have a student explain and understand those consequences. So how, as an adult, are we given the tools to the students to make these, critical thinking, problem-solving decisions about their own identity? How are we keeping them safe if we're not letting them know what those consequences are? And that's important.
And I know,
but other than, go ahead.
I know Michigan banned conversion therapy for minors too, but I also know that the Michigan House, they approved House Bill 4066 and House Bill 4469, which aim to restrict transgender girls from playing on girls' sports based on their biological sex. They also did House Bill 4024, which it would require multiple occupancy restrooms, locker rooms, and changing areas in schools to be used only by people matching their biological sex. So they're basically saying, this is your section, don't come over to this section. I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. And obviously as a woman, but I have two daughters. this is so important. Both of them are athletes. We can even talk about that portion of it. I don't want my child. They have worked so hard to get where they are, but the mere safety that goes along with it. But I also think it's important to point out, we have some really amazing bills that the House of Representatives have put forward.
Yes.
Where are those bills sitting right now?
In the Senate, because they passed the House.
In the Senate. And do you know there have been bills sitting in the Senate since the beginning of the year, and they're not picking these up?
Yes, I do.
And this is, again, where I will say your votes matter, right? Your votes matter, and this is why the next election will be so important.
Bree, I want to get your take on something, because I think this opt-out option is probably coming to your state, near Michigan and every other state. Here's Mickey Sherrill, who just won for New Jersey governor. Listen to what she has to say.
I believe that parents have the right to oversee their children's education. I would push an LGBTQ education into our schools. Parents have a right to opt out of a lot of things, but this is not an area where they should be opting out, because this isn't.
Can you hit that? I mean, parents shouldn't have a right to opt out their kids being educated on LGBTQ curriculum? Are you kidding me?
Well, and, I literally am laughing at this because we all know of the recent SCOTUS ruling, right?
Yeah.
Where parents do have the right to opt out. To hear anybody in government say that is just appalling. And that is literally treading on the rights, the religion, the creed, the values and beliefs that we all have our right to do that constitutionally. And that, to me, makes me want to vomit. Yeah. Because the same goes too. If somebody is LGBTQ, our students deserve to be safe, whether they're heterosexual, homosexual, transgender. But just because my student doesn't believe like your student also doesn't have to believe my mind. No, nobody in government should ever, ever, ever tread upon the rights of somebody else to have their own belief system. That's completely outrageous. That's outrageous.
If you're just joining the show, we're talking to Bree Moggenberg. She's a Republican State Central Committee member. Finally, we got about a minute and a half. I want you to speak to the Michigan parents. I want you to speak to the legislators, anybody that's running for office. What should be the message that these people that are, especially Republicans that are running for office, what should be their message to the voters as to what they're going to do day one as it relates to gender, identity, sports fairness, safety, curriculum? What should be their message?
Thank you for asking me that question. In our current political environment, what I can say to legislators is I understand every legislator has to pick a topic to run on to gather the engagement of voters. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to sit at the table with people that we don't agree with and come up with solutions. And the back and forth is really damning our schools. It's damning our students, and it's inflaming the education system. What I can say to parents is get involved. If you're not educated, ask. There are so many means by which you can be educated. Always, always, always advocate for your child and get active if you can do that. Your votes matter. Your votes matter. Your votes matter. And that is my driving point one more time. Votes matter.
Bree Moggenberg, Republican State Central Committee member. Next time I want to get into have a discussion about, Trump just basically pardoned the 77 electors or whatever you want to call them, people that.
Woohoo, right?
Yeah. I would love to discuss that with you next time you're on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trump.
All right.
And thank you, John.
No problem. Bree Moggenberg, thanks so much for joining us on Detroit's Morning Answer.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
You also. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye. Lance, you were right. Vance, you were right. All right, brother. Yeah, shut up. You got a deep Rolodex, Vance Patrick. I can't lie about that. But can you imagine that woman, Mickey Sherrill, is now the governor of New Jersey? What is she going to do to that state? And that could be coming to here in Michigan or across this country, wherever you're listening. That could be coming to your state. Exactly. And she had a right vote. The only way we change this is if we vote. Detroit's Morning Answer. We'll be right back.